Mr. Jack Cole, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here today to talk to you. Certainly. My name is Jack Cole. I do not use, nor do I intend to use, marijuana or any other illegal substance. I retired as a detective lieutenant after a 26-year career with the New Jersey State Police. For 14 of those years, I worked as an undercover narcotics officer. My investigations spanned cases from street drug users to international billion-dollar drug trafficking organizations. I'm here today to respectfully encourage this committee to support replacing the current failed marijuana prohibition laws with a workable system of providing for the medical use of marijuana. Bills such as HB1393, when enacted across the U.S., will reduce the harms prohibition has imposed on our society. They will allow hundreds of thousands of patients suffering from various diseases to legally access medicine vital to maintaining a decent quality of life. But that is far from the only good reason for passing such bills. They will also help police to return to important jobs, such as tracking down violent criminals. They will save billions of tax dollars while creating additional revenue of billions more. They will remove a large portion of the obscene profits currently collected by the violent Mexican drug cartels. And they will ultimately reduce the number of underage people using marijuana recreationally. This is a great start, but it is only a start. I'm a founding member and the chairman of LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. It's an organization founded by 5 former cops to give voice to law enforcers who believe the war on drugs is not only a dismal failure, but worse. It is a self-perpetuating, constantly expanding policy disaster. In the 8 years of LEAP's existence, this organization has grown to represent more than 30,000 people, and we are no longer just cops. We are police, judges, prosecutors, prison wardens, DEA and FBI agents, and others who know that a policy of regulation and control of drugs is much more efficient and ethical than a policy of prohibition. Nothing can be regulated or controlled while it is illegal. By the way, one of these people that I'm talking about, I represent here, is a friend of mine, former retired Lieutenant Fred Martens, also from the New Jersey State Police, who worked with me undercover in narcotics, and who went on to become the commissioner of the Pennsylvania Crime Commission. And you will probably hear from him if you have any of these back in Philadelphia. For 40 years, with a budget of $1.5 trillion, the United States has fought the war on drugs by implementing ever harsher policies. During those years, we have made 41 million arrests for nonviolent drug users, drug offenses in this country. Nearly half of those arrests were for marijuana violations. That's a lot of people. Currently, 2,300,000 people are imprisoned in the United States, far more per capita than any country in the world. And what do we have to show for all these ruined lives, all this misspent money? Today, drugs are cheaper, stronger, and far easier for our children to access than they were And the war began in 1970, and I started buying those drugs as an undercover officer. That is the very essence of a failed public policy. As public servants, we all work to ensure the quality of life of our citizens, and we seek and support decisions that favor the greater social good. We suggest that having an arrest record of any kind is certainly a life-altering event. It will impact social status, possibly employment status, the ability to secure housing, and it will certainly increase stress within a family unit. Drug charges and conviction will also destroy a college student's opportunity for continued federal financial aid. According to the government sources, more than 97 million Americans currently admit to having tried marijuana. How fortunate we are, I believe, in many ways, that they were not all arrested and prosecuted. Nearly 1,000 people experimenting with drugs went to jail as a direct result of what I did out there as one undercover agent, something I'm sure not proud of today. Because of what the last speaker said about lobbyists and such, let me suggest to you that, or let me just tell you, I'm not here as a lobbyist. I'm here as the founder of LEAP, and I'm not here because I make money at it. I don't get paid anything. I do what I do to try to correct a lot of wrongs that I caused in 26 years in the state police. Most of the people I arrested were young adults. Many of them were self-medicating with marijuana. I can't say how many of those folks would have gone on to have become valuable citizens had I not intervened, but I am sure that my intercession caused nearly all of them to be sucked into that whirlpool of incarceration from which it is almost impossible to escape. And it was not only the fate of those individuals arrested. Their whole families suffered greatly as a result of these arrests. I would just ask the Commission to think of all the people you know personally who ever used an illegal drug when they were young and then put those drugs behind them. Went on to live perfectly happy, productive lives. You know, you could do that if you haven't been arrested. You can get over an addiction. You will never get over a conviction. A conviction will track you every day for the rest of your life because it's on a computer. Every time you apply for a job, it's over your head like a big ugly cloud. Employers look at your record and say, druggie, we don't want you. The only place those folks can find acceptance is right back in the drug culture, the very group we say we're trying to save from drugs. Current drug policy prevents police from solving significant crimes because police spend so much time and energy chasing marijuana law violators. In 1963, before we had a war on drugs, our police were correctly credited with solving 91% of all murders in this country. But in recent years, they have solved only 61% of those murders. The crime rate in the United States has dropped 40% since the 1990s. But even with this tremendous reduction in workload, police still fail to solve 40% of the murders, 60% of rapes and arsons, 75% of robberies. We have far more police per capita than we did in 1963. They're better paid, they're better educated, they're better trained, and they have technology at their disposal like it came from Star Wars. So what could cause this terrible drop in our being able to solve crimes? The police, judges, and prosecutors at LEAP believe that it is since the war on drugs started, police have had to spend so much time and energy chasing nonviolent drug offenders that we no longer have time to protect citizens from these violent criminals. HB1393 and similar bills will, by implementing a system of legalized regulation of medical marijuana, effectively reduce a large number of arrests for marijuana violations, and will allow, therefore, police to work on far more important issues. The financial repercussions of drug prohibition are staggering. A 2008 report commissioned by LEAP and written by Harvard University economics professor Jeffrey Myron estimates that drug legalization and regulation would reduce the U.S. government expenditure by $44 billion annually, with roughly $30 billion of that accruing to state and local governments, and about $14 billion accruing to the federal government. Approximately $13 billion of the potential savings annually would result from the legalization of marijuana alone. $13 billion. Dr. Myron further estimates that drug legalization would yield a tax revenue of $33 billion annually, assuming that the then legal drugs would be taxed at rates comparable to those placed on alcohol and tobacco. Approximately $7 billion of that annual tax revenue would be a direct result of the regulation and taxation of the only drug, marijuana. Dr. Myron also estimates that Pennsylvania currently spends $408 million yearly on marijuana interdiction, and that legalized regulation of all marijuana would result in an additional revenue source to Pennsylvania of $88 million. So the savings and the revenue yearly to Pennsylvania could amount to nearly $500 million. Sadly, current policy also results in children telling us it is easier to buy marijuana than it is to buy beer and cigarettes. Of course, the reason for that is no drug dealer on the street is going to card them, say, are you old enough to buy these drugs? This bill will reduce marijuana use in Pennsylvania. Reduce. In every country where illicit drugs have been decriminalized and regulated, the rate of drug use has been reduced when compared to neighboring countries that did not decriminalize. For instance, Portugal. In July 2001, Portugal decriminalized all drugs for adults. Not only did they decriminalize, they said you can have up to 10 days supply of your personal drug of choice on your person and you won't get arrested. And obviously 10 days supply is different depending on who you're talking to. So virtually nobody gets arrested over there for these drug violations. The drug lawyers, both there and in the United States, prophesized chaos if this policy came into effect, but it did come into effect. And the results were exactly the opposite of what they said. They said, if you allow adults to use any drug they want, everybody will be using drugs. Well, exactly the opposite happened. Drug use in every age group went down after they decriminalized drugs, but especially among the young. For children from ages 13 through 15 years old, drug use declined by 25%. That's significant. For young people from age 16 to 18, drug use declined by 22%. You know, there is this fruit of the forbidden tree, and when you say to a young person, you can't have that, your reaction is often, I think I'll just